Guys, it is August 11. Huh? How'd that work out? The date, so well timed to the music. When Lars made that music, he was clearly planning for this stream and this moment, because guys, I haven't even begun to tell you there's a little more to the synchronicity of 11. We're going to talk about it soon. But here we go. Are we ready? I'm ready. Are we hearing me? Are we seeing me? I'm seeing you guys comment. I hope everyone's getting in the stream okay. Seems to be working, says Stefan over in Stockholm. Well, that's good. If it can make it 7,000 kilometers over to Stefan, then hopefully it can make it 70 kilometers down to our guest today, because he's in my vague neighborhood. I'm excited for today's stream for a number of reasons, but do you know who might be the most excited for today's stream? It's gonna sound weird. My mom. I'll explain. It's there's a correlation effect to this. I don't know if you guys know. I know there's a lot of people I see here that watch the stream all the time. I think the highest number of views have come from my mom. She watches the stream all the time. She's its biggest fan. She is probably on the verge of dropping some totally lit fire beats. I'm pretty sure that from what she's gained from this, she's gonna be the next Billie Eilish, is what I'm saying. That's what's going on, and it's all thanks to you guys in the comments and all of our guests we've had on the stream. So. Yeah. Someone's asking, can we do an episode on how Lars made the theme song? Maybe. We could have Lars back on and talk about that theme song if you wanted to break it down. Yeah. We did have Lars on as a guest, and we did take a look at the theme song kind of superficially. So, yeah, we could do it again. We could do anything. Guys, that's the beauty of this show. Like, you and I get to figure out what we're doing. It's like it's this collaborative live streaming with no deliberate agenda, and therefore no rules, and we can just, do whatever we want. But anyway, guys, so okay, I should bring on my guest for all that we want to talk about, all that we want to do. I'm excited to have my guest. I gotta say, I have been trying to have this guest sit in an interview chair and talk music and talk reason and talk about his career for probably 10 years. And in fact, he was one of the first gets that I wanted to get for interviews and video stuff, and I never could. We'll talk maybe a little bit about that in vague terms. But this guy, let's bring him on. This is a guy I have known, I said in the description, I've known him my whole life, because this is, maybe you don't know, this is my brother, Jesse Harlin. Please welcome him to the show. Jesse.
Oh. Hi.
It's very dramatic.
Nepotism.
That's right. Nepotism. I know. Next week I'm gonna have my sister on, all our cousins. Yep. We're just gonna turn this into the Ryan family reunion hour.
the Ryan Harlin family jam band.
That is right.
Where we all play along to Mom's new song.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I'm hearing buzz about that thing. A&R is they're out looking for it.
Yeah.
So maybe we should probably let's start. Actually, wait, hang on. I can't even. I don't even want to get into why you're on this show, because people who don't know you may just be thinking that I was out of guests, and so I thought I'd just catch up with you and see how your weekend was. That is not the case. But before I get to that, I've got to get to the other August 11th serendipity going on, which is, and I've waited to say this until we're live on the air, because that's apparently how I live my life now, is only for the view of others.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
It's Jesse's birthday today, guys. There's something funny to me about playing your own fanfare.
It's really kind of whatever.
in the traditional world, it's like a regal person enters a room and it's equally sort of like there's a certain like pomp and circumstance to having players there doing it. But it's another if you walked in and you played your own fanfare.
Well, I mean, Yeah, that's what kings would do. Like the people that played fanfares for him, they didn't want to play fanfares for him.
Oh yeah,
they did it because he.
Please see my attached
them
CV. I have 3 years in fanfare experience. I would love the opportunity to play your fanfare. No,
Yeah, totally.
never the case.
Yeah.
Well, so Jess, let's first of all, you're getting. I got to pass along. You're just the comments are a sea of birthday wishes.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you, Reason community.
You've got happy cake day, happy birthday mate from Sparks 127. So I'm going to go with
Thank you.
UK or Australia, New Zealand, one of those mate-based places. And everybody's
Possibly South Africa. Maybe.
Oh, that's true. I shouldn't be so limited in my matedom. My mate.
Any of the British colonial
That's true. Okay, at this point,
historical scars.
Sparks 127. I think at this point we need to know where you're from so that we can settle our curious colonial wonder. But Jess, okay, why are you on the show? Maybe we should get to that. I should maybe set.
Mom told me that you needed a guest.
Oh man, what I haven't told people is that Jesse is a video game soundtrack composer. Is that a simple enough description of your title?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, game composer. I call myself a game composer.
Okay. So you particularly live in the game world. You know, just a composer, like there are composers who will, I do TV spots and film spots and I'll do a game soundtrack and I'll do whatever work comes my way. But you really have sort of like targeted from the get-go and deliberately. It wasn't like you sort of fell into, I guess that's where the gigs are coming from. But you targeted game audio.
Right. Yes, that is correct.
There's
that's not where the gigs were coming from.
No, when you started, that was not right. Yeah. This is actually, it's funny now. Now I'm gonna, just because now it's on my mind, I'm gonna tell one more mom story since it's not every day. I got my brother as my guest. So I'll just share with people, and you can confirm if it's true or correct me if I'm wrong. But here's my memory: was that growing up, our mom was one of these like very supportive, sort of, I don't know what you would call it, sort of 80s post-hippie parent, sort of, very supportive and you can do whatever you dream, and when you grow up, be whatever you want. And when Jesse was
it's the mom voice.
Yeah.
That's your mom voice.
That's my mom voice. When you were about 6 years old, though, you went to see Indiana Jones, and you settled in on your career. You said, I want to be a
archaeologist.
And mom said,
no.
Yeah,
you'll never make any money doing it.
You'll never make any money doing it. Yes, it was the first time as a child I saw my dream big supportive mother squash your dream as soon as it came out of your mouth. It was like, there's really, it's a very academic field. There's really not a lot of, So
that is correct.
And so who knows, you could have been an archaeologist had she not
now, because she's probably listening and working on her song at the same time. She is very, very supportive and has been very supportive. So this was a blip in an uncharacteristic blip.
I know. No, I'm not. And listen, she has, of course, but I want to tie to one other thing, and I'm not just throwing her under the bus, but I find it interesting that after you threw away your dreams of being an archaeologist, to be fair, you would have thrown that dream away when you realized that they don't all carry whips,
But I could have.
That's true. You should still carry a whip, actually, come to think of it.
Yeah. That's true, I should.
But, just gonna periodically... but then, so then you started moving through life, and when you were in college, you developed this interest in well, you were in music school, so it's not like it was out of nowhere. Right. You weren't like I
was studying film scoring.
Right. And you sort of came to realize that you wanted to pair your other great love of gaming, which you were an avid gamer, and your love of composition, and you wanted to start doing these soundtracks that you had been listening to. And this is at an era when soundtracks were a little more primitive, and we can talk about that. But that was, I have to say the second time that she was a little like she was sort of the household voice of skepticism, going like, is that a thing? Can you like games are the thing that people do as a leisure and not as, I mean, what era are we talking about here?
We're talking about 1997.
Right. And so what for people?
No, 97.
I'm sorry to say for people that weren't born yet, but but for people who weren't born yet, who are watching, or for people who sort of weren't following the game scene, it has changed from then till now in like an insane
Massively.
way. So now, for you to say I'm a game,
I'll give you some context.
Yeah.
In 1997, the very first game to use recorded instruments had come out a year and a half earlier.
Wow, really?
Yeah, this is like super early days in the industry, and at the time that I was doing this and trying to forge a path in it, I had no idea how raw and fresh everything was. The game had come out in 1995 called The Seventh Guest, with a score written by a man named George Sanger. And I believe that was the first score that actually shipped with an all Red Book Audio live instrument score.
Which now it would be unthinkable to do anything else, but right? It would almost be a marketing gimmick if it was like, hey, this has chip-based music or something, right?
I mean, that still happens a lot, but it's definitely a niche aesthetic.
And so to sort of put some background on that, just so people understand, up until that point, kind of the standard thing was that if you had a game console, we'll call it a Nintendo, a Super Nintendo or something, right? They had an onboard audio chip, and people who wrote music would write for the chip. It was sort of like that was your sounds. Like, to take the Reason example, like imagine working just with Reason stock devices to make a song. Okay, now instead of that, imagine it's more like a calculator's worth of musical power, and you still have to work and make your music with that. Those are your sounds. Those are your presets.
And you're writing with effectively MIDI, but it's not MIDI, and it's a much more frustrating interface. Anybody who has gotten into the tracker scene,
we have some people. A lot of people actually got into music production from the tracker scene.
Yeah, so
Adam Fielding particularly, and I know. So
that's what people were doing.
Gotcha. But so you came in at really kind of the ground level of this alternative thing, which is to say, oh, actually now, and I assume it was from the advent of optical disc-based game consoles.
It's from CDs.
So,
well, it started with PC.
Oh, okay. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, so as CD-ROM makes its way into the standard, so you're sort of part of that ground level of being able to, well, you weren't even actually making game soundtracks at that point, but you were experiencing those games. So you were coming to understand that there is more that is possible. This is a vast, untapped well of musical possibility.
Right.
And then you're kind of, at the same time, you're getting into composition. So it kind of is one of those interesting right place, right time things.
Yeah, it was.
For you. But
yes, it totally was.
That being said, it's not like you can then just, you can't just send an email to Sony and say, hi, I'm a composition student. Can I have one of those games to work on, please? Like, that's not how that...
It's funny that you say that, because I don't know if you remember. That is the inverse of that is effectively exactly how I got my first gig. Sony called our composition department at school, and they said, hey, we've got a game we're doing, and the soundtrack was an EDM score, and Sony hates it, and they threw the whole score out. Do you happen to have any students who'd be interested in writing an orchestral score for a game? So it's funny that that's your example, because that's kind of exactly what happened. They came looking, but at the time that they came and that call from nowhere came in, I had made myself very clearly known in the school as the guy who wants to write game music. And I had talked to everybody about it, trying to say like, hey, who could I talk to? And do you know anybody who does this? And do you know anyone who might be able to help me learn about it? But like I said, people had only been doing this for like a year and a half, 2 years at the time I'm asking these questions. Nobody had any idea. I had no idea how few people knew what was being done. It was a pioneering field, and I was walking around the halls of academia trying to figure out where it was being taught while it was still being figured out.
Right, which is actually kind of interesting. I hadn't thought about this until you just used the word academia, but when it comes to academia, as it were, that can be like when it comes to like medicine and science and stuff, that's often the very bleeding edge of the newest technology. That's where the innovations are made. When it comes to music, it's actually the trailing edge.
It totally is.
It if you talk about music production, they're now in music curriculums teaching dubstep and trap, which are 10-year-old sort of movements that were bubbling up and happening. And there's that sort of slow lag before the people in the academic world kind of go, oh, this is a thing. So I would imagine, for example, I don't know if you've had any contact with your alma mater, but I would imagine now they're probably teaching game audio as part of their curriculum.
Yeah, they are. I if I'm ever back in the UK, I have sort of a standing invitation to come do a guest lecture at LIPA.
Gotcha.
Which I would love to do, but no one travels anywhere.
Right. If you're ever allowed out of the country, is more now the
yes.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
Well, so we should talk a little bit about kind of the stuff you've done. We should do a little bit of stuff, and there's kind of a lot of ground I want to cover. But I thought maybe we could kind of wind people in a little bit with a demo reel of yours. And just sort of show people what you do, because it is when you are a capital C composer. You are to say you're a game composer isn't the way any 20-year-old with an Instagram says they're the CEO of their influencer brand. It's like you actually are a composer who does orchestral composition. So maybe for people to understand kind of a lot of what you do, let's take a look at I guess this is some of the more recent stuff that you've done, kind of put into a little compilation. Now, sadly, Jesse, you're not going to hear it, so you and I are just going to stare at each other for about 2 minutes while people check out some of the stuff. But this is some of the stuff that Jesse's been doing with some of the gameplay as well for some of these games as well. So check it out. Okay, we are back. So, first of all, comments flying in on the on the comment section here. First of all, I'm going to just jump up. Michael Wood says, "Hey, if you ever visit Lipa, I guess I've noted there's some CV googling that's been going on while you've been talking. So now some people are hip to some things." Michael says, "If you visit Lipa again, that's Jesse's college that he went to, mine too actually. Let's have coffee. I'm about 10 minutes away. Where are you, Michael? Are you over on the Whirl? Are you up in Birkenhead, Hollyoak? I'm remembering names now. Warrington." I bought a washing machine in Warrington.
City Center? It's funny because I have absolutely no idea where 10 minutes away is by car.
Oh,
because
right.
While we were there, everything was on foot for us. So
right, 10 minutes away is like, oh, so you live around the block?
Yeah,
you live by the
down by
okay.
that little Chinatown area.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
But okay, so other than that, yeah, a lot of people, a lot of capital letters, dope, epic. David, he did Valorant. So yes, David, he did do Valorant. Valorant.
It's Valorant.
Maybe it's time that I mention I'm not a gamer. Would that be the correct?
That's a very good thing to mention right now. That Ryan has been left behind, but once things went from the Super Nintendo to the N64, once it went 3D,
forget about it.
He was like, I'm done. I'm out.
Give me a side.
This will never catch on.
I want a side scroller, and I want sound effects that just go like bling, 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 bling. Like that's all I need. So, but So anyway, let's sort of dive into some of this stuff. I think people kind of got a taste for what you do, but there is kind of a large breadth to what you do. But at the heart of all of it, what you really are doing, and I think what people can sort of take from this into their own music making, is that you are highly focused on mood.
Yes. Everything I do is about mood and emotion. That is the job of a media composer. You are the emotional backbone of a scene. You are tasked with either reinforcing and amplifying the emotion of the scene, or sometimes injecting emotion into a scene where there is none, or maybe it's ambiguous without the music. And once the music goes in, you are able to shape and show the audience basically what they should be feeling. You manipulate the audiences.
Now, as much as I'm not a gamer, I am fascinated by the process of game audio because of stuff that you've shown me. And so there are no shortage of examples that people may have started seeing, because like it's now kind of a thing people like to do to demonstrate the importance of music in film. So they'll take a scene from Jaws or a scene from, Star Wars or something, and they'll strip the music out and they'll show you like, look, without the music, this totally intense, wonderful moment falls way flat.
Right.
But
in fact, that's one of the assignments we do in film school, film music school, is to take a scene that has no music on it and completely change the intended meaning of the scene. Nothing else is changing. The scene is shot and edited, dialogue's all the same, and all you are doing is writing music for it that is completely wrong for what was originally intended, in order to see how much you can twist the meaning of the scene by just changing the music.
But now I've seen you, when I've visited you in your studio spaces, I've seen you show me demos. Well, yeah, that's right. But you've shown me demos of stuff where you're getting into sort of, and one of the areas you really love is this what would you call it? Interactive game audio, where when you'll show me scenes and the things that are happening are based on character movement in the scene. Musical cues are happening off of character movement. And that's sort of, to me, in a lot of ways, it's like that next level of that classic film example of strip the music off and it feels flat. Now it's like, not only are you having that jump in intensity from adding the music to a scene, but because the person is doing the motion, there's this synchronicity to the brain where it's like, I don't want to say it to them, it must feel like they're writing the music, but it must definitely feel like they're living the movie when their actions cause these emotional swells to happen. Is that?
And it's not necessarily just tied to movement. We can have interactive music that is excuse me, interactive music that is tied to gameplay decisions,
Right.
puzzle completion, all kinds of things. How much health the character has, you name it, we can establish some sort of hook that we can connect music to.
But so what you're writing is, you're sort of writing a palette of possibilities that
Right.
can be kind of stacked up in any number of ways, and they have to work in all those ways.
It's very modular.
Yeah, modular. That's the great word
It's
for it.
very modular. So when you write a film cue, by and large, film cues tend to be limited to nowhere more than maybe like 3 minutes in length. And usually they're smaller. And that's because when you have an orchestra or you have an ensemble sitting together and recording, it wastes time on the stage if you get 4 minutes into a piece and all of a sudden somebody plays something wrong and you have to go back and start punching or picking up edits and stuff. So we tend to write films in smaller pieces.
When you say ensemble, you literally mean orchestras, subsections of orchestras, full orchestras, choirs, that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, or a band, or a jazz band, or a brass section, a quintet, whatever.
Some people were asking if those vocals in your demo are real. Is that?
Yes, they are real.
Gotcha.
That track was recorded in Nashville with a live orchestra and live vocals.
Sorry, I'm laughing because somebody, Chris Reyes says, "Is that a photo of Ryan in the background?" And I like the idea that you have a childhood photo of him in the background.
No, that is my son. That is a photo of my son.
But another question from the comments I wanted to ask, if I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. Drowsy Carnivore says, "Can you give us some ideas of which chords inspire what types of emotions?" And that's
Totally.
I mean, that's a book unto itself. I'm sure that you could get into, but maybe is there a way you could show him and others how you think chordally related to emotion?
I totally can. You want me to pull up Logic?
Yeah. Oh, you should. And let's explain. So Jesse is kind of he's not new to Reason. You've been using Reason for a long time, but you've been using Reason in a way that your workflow is in Logic, and so you've done Rewire over the years. You've done sort of exporting and then moving audio into Logic, and suddenly Jesse has this new world where
actually I should say that I began with bouncing out audio files from what's it called? Rebirth.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
I would create beats in Rebirth and export them, and then I don't even know what the process was back then of how I would then get it into Logic. I forget, but I've been using Propellerhead stuff for a long time.
Right. In fact, actually, so this has been. I was going to say I'm going to tell this story carefully.
Okay.
Jesse, when I started working with Reason, Jesse was a Reason user.
Yes.
Let's establish that as fact.
Yes.
Fact 2, Jesse was the senior composer at LucasArts.
Yes.
That's a fact. Fact.
Yeah.
2010. You were a senior composer by then, right?
Oh, 2010. Yes, I was.
So now, fact 3. There were Star Wars games being made that you worked a lot on.
Yes.
Now, I want you to connect some of those 3 facts, and then I'm going to mention something totally unrelated to those 3 facts, which is that the Lucasfilm Corporation is historically very not okay with implied endorsements. And so I've heard, for people totally unrelated to my situation, that you can't sort of talk to people that might use certain tools because it might sort of imply that in a weird way Yoda is endorsing that tool. I'll just put that over off to the side. And so when I'll say this, there was a very compelling story to be told of what Reason was doing and where Reason was appearing that I was like, I can't say anything about it. Yarr. So
Yeah,
that's why I'm kind of excited to have you on here now, because you
Yeah.
for two reasons really. One, because we can kind of talk about stuff that you've done, but also because it is this new era where Reason now running as an AU plugin in Logic has been a very revolutionarily different experience for you now, right?
It's so good. Yeah, I much prefer it to trying to get it to work via Rewire. Yeah, it's really great.
Right. So, but okay. So now we should jump back
I'm
to.
still not, I'm still using Logic as my main DAW. It's
Yeah,
still
well,
my sequencer of choice and whatnot, but I am very much enjoying.
I don't think that's it's like someone made a comment. Mark said, "Ooh, did he say another DAW?" But it's like that is sort of the era that we are in now. Is that as far as Reason Studios is concerned, I'm speaking on behalf of a bunch of other people, but that's not a. We never, we made Rewire because we want things to work together. We want people to be able to find the tool that works best for them, and hopefully we fit into that as well. And maybe we're the DAW, maybe we're the Rewire host or whatever. That was the thinking back in the day. In this era, now it's just Reason. What do you use? Well, use Reason in that. So it's not really a. There's not that DAW war sort of concept is a very outdated concept, especially for us because we really want to be kind of everywhere. So, but
yeah,
anyway,
I mean, I think it's it's interesting because I sort of have a different perspective than probably most of the people that you would bring on to your show, where a lot of people are probably coming on because you're talking about beat production and more pop and EDM oriented music production. But that's not what I do, and yet I still use Reason. So, and I'm not the only game composer that does, and I'm not the only film composer that does. There's lots of people out there who use Reason in other ways, and that happens to be by using it as a sound bank within their DAW, by using not only the EDM oriented stuff, but like the clang stuff, the
Pangea.
world percussion,
Right.
all that stuff that is interesting coloration material that isn't necessarily just the like redrum and Kong and stuff.
Okay, but so let's answer Drowsy Carnivore's question about moods and chords.
Yeah, moods and chords, right. So, do you want me to screen share? Is that helpful?
Is that I think that's
probably.
Yeah, let's do
I
that.
think that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
Doink. Do you see Logic?
I do now.
All right. So, I've got a keyboard up here on screen to hopefully help people see what I'm doing. But let's talk in very, very early elementary basics. Effectively,
He's doing that for me, guys, by the way. That's just dumbing it down for me.
The more notes you add to a chord, the more complicated it gets to be, right? So if I have a single note just played on a high string,
Imagine a world of sight and sound. Isn't that?
it already has a sort of mood to it, right? But it's an ambiguous mood. It's a tense sort of sound because you don't know what direction it's going to go in. It's not necessarily calm. It's not necessarily tense. It's not minor. It's not major. And depending on what octave you do it in, it also changes the intent of that chord or of that sound. Right? Now, this is both of these are C's. One was up high and could be the kind of, this is, I'm breaking into a building right now and I don't know who's going to come out of the shadows.
Right.
This is, Deborah, I've got something I want to tell you. They're very different moments, but they're both literally just C, 2 octaves apart.
Right.
Now, add a fifth onto that. We're way more consonant sounding now.
Consonant sounding. Define.
We're way more calm, way more stable. Consonant as opposed to dissonant. So consonant meaning it's a pleasant sound, something that feels stable, something that is not something that you feel you want to move away from.
Right.
This is, Dad, I'll always think of you in these summer months roll around. That's but then once you get the fifth, then you start talking about, typically you start getting into triads, which is most typically either a major triad or a minor triad. And a C major triad, there's absolutely nothing more happy and calm and consonant than that.
There's a comment from Chalism in the comments that says, Olivia is saying, don't you dare add the third. No, Jesse doesn't know the background of that. But
what?
In our stream last week, our guest Olivia Broadfield was talking about how she always tries to avoid just a 1-3-5 triad. Just like give it some other flavor, or at least invert it or do something. But yeah, so that's what that's.
I would agree in large part. But this chord absolutely has its places.
But that is already an inversion. Just look at the keys you're doing there.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So here you go. A C major triad. And we have a mood there already, right? Minor, we have a very strong mood here too,
Right.
And that's kind of it. There's either chords that are consonant or chords that are dissonant. And chords that are consonant are the things that make you feel calm and stable and really tug at the heartstrings. And chords that are dissonant are basically everything else.
Would you call something like a minor seventh chord where you add the seventh on top? Would you call that a dissonant chord? It's not consonant, or is it consonant?
It's not stable particularly. It has a sense that it wants to go someplace else. And that's due to our ears being used to centuries of music theory, where this is used as the dominant chord pulling you towards this resolution. Right?
Okay.
So this doesn't feel like it wants to just sit there.
Right. Oh, goodbye, my Coney Island baby. That's what it feels like to me when you just play on its own, in isolation, Yeah.
Yeah. But like you can't make a career as a composer. Okay, I'm going to say this, and then like instantly people will point towards some composer where I'm totally wrong. But you can't make a career as a composer just writing triads. So that's when you start exploring.
Wait a second. What about Triad Joe?
Triad Joe is the exception to the rule.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. No, but chords that have clusters in them, smaller intervals, larger intervals, all of that can be things that help you establish mood. Bernard Herrmann, super famous film composer from the 50s, we'll say is his golden era. There's a chord that he used like all the time, and it's the half diminished chord. So this is the Bernard Herrmann chord. Okay, super iconic Bernard Herrmann chord. So like,
oh, huh.
That's the Vertigo score. But he used that half diminished chord all over the place. And me personally, I really like cluster chords. And so I will blur the tonality some. One of my favorite cluster chords is literally just 1, 2, 3, 4 scale. Scale.
So if we're in the key of C, we're talking about C, D, E, F. That's that.
That's that. it has such a rich series of overtones to it, and it wants to go someplace else, and the longer you sit on it, the more tense it feels, the more it feels like
freaking me out, man.
yeah. And it can be you know, if you, like I did with the Vertigo score.
Wait. You're saying you're treating that cluster chord now as an arpeggio of sorts, but but you're thinking of it as the cluster. It's not just that you're like, oh, I'll just flumple around on the first 4 notes of the scale.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just that cluster chord.
Right.
Right. And I when I'm scoring something, let me.
So I wanted to ask.
Let me show you real fast here. Like, okay. I may do something where I switch back and forth between those two things. Right, and then let's quickly just quantize. Oops. That's not what I wanted to do. Quantize all that.
You better operate this perfectly. No mistakes, right? Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter. I can do whatever I want because it's not the Logic guys watching. And then I'll switch over to. Oops. Right?
Same notes.
I've done nothing except play C, D, E flat, and F. And now I have the beginnings of an action cue, or like a tension cue. Right?
Yeah. Right. Now this is something that I mentioned in the description of this stream that we were probably going to talk about, because it's something that's very central to a lot of what you do, is creating that excitement and that action sort of vibe. And it seems like clusters are central to that concept for you. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, it totally is. I most recently worked on the Mafia Definitive Edition with 2K. And one of my main chords that I use throughout that score is a D minor flat 6 chord. That is the main chord to represent the main character, Tommy Angelo. Or sometimes I'll drop the third out and replace it with just the fifth. That chord is everywhere in the score.
Gotcha.
And even if you go so far as to look at the melody I have for Tommy, let's see, let's pull up a trumpet or something.
Could you, like, I'm realizing now, I want you to, like, record my phone's alarm sound, because I would wake up and hit the ground running if that, it's like, from that trumpet sound. Yeah.
Time to get up, Ryan.
Yeah, sounds good. But but okay. So now another comment from Drowsy Carnivore says I'm going to study the F out of cluster chords. I wonder, could we maybe give people a demo of? I mean, you did that little demo, but I wonder if there's a way to kind of show people how they really can be the launching point for would you call it an action cue? Am I speaking your lingo?
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Totally. Yeah. Like, one of the things that it took me a long time to learn in composition, but it's a super important concept. There's two important concepts, and they go right side by side. One is there is absolutely a point during every song where you reach it's like the law of diminishing musical returns, where you reach a point where you're no longer tweaking anything in the song that anyone is going to notice except you. The song is done, and you are now just wasting your time, and you need to just put it to bed. And
I imagine there's a lot of people right now going, "Oh yeah, true."
Yeah. And the other thing that goes along with that is that it has taken me a long time to learn that a lot of the time, basically kind of anything is good enough in terms of like a starting idea. You can get so far out of just like whatever, just start something. And
God, I think those are both two really great, and they're on the opposite ends of the spectrum, but two really great things that anyone, regardless, if you're not making epic game soundtracks, you can apply this to your music. Anything is a good starting point. God, I'm going to be using that later today. And then the idea that at some point you just, snip the line.
There will always come a point where you cross a line and you're done. And you have to learn how to recognize where that line is, because otherwise you just continue to waste time
but
polishing
that is
something
the trick, right?
done.
Recognizing where the line is.
Yes, and I'll tell you, I've had to be forced to learn that line because, I forget. I think it was maybe Stravinsky. There's this famous story where a famous composer, and let's say it's Stravinsky because I think it is.
Who's going to fact check you?
Right? Tritone Joe's going to
Oh, you've already been fact checking that with Matthias chimed in with Philip Glass, I think.
Only triads, Matthias? I don't know. Okay. All right. We'll say he's right, because what do I know? Okay, so Stravinsky goes, this is like the golden era of Stravinsky's career, and he goes and he meets with, let's say it's MGM, and Samuel Goldwyn is like, I want you to work on a film score for us. And I probably have all the people wrong, so I might as well just say it's John Williams, and he goes to meet with Ryan Reynolds, like whatever it is. I can't remember who it is.
He rode in on a unicorn.
So Stravinsky rides in on a unicorn, parks the unicorn, and goes into his meeting with Samuel Goldwyn, and sits down, and he's like, "Look, I'd love for you. You're Stravinsky. I'd love for you to write a film score. Here's what the movie's about, and here's this. So what do you think? How soon do you think we might have something we could work on?" And Stravinsky thinks for a moment. And he's like, "All right, I should have something for you in about a year." And the studio exec was like, "All right, thanks for coming in," and that was it. He just never worked with them. So film composers, game composers,
no one ever heard of Stravinsky again.
That's right. But it's this case where when you're working on music for media, you have to turn it around quickly. And because you have to turn it around quickly, you learn, one, this is good enough to start with. And two, you then learn, it's done. And I need to move on.
Right.
And they're super important lessons to learn.
Well, all right, Mr. Practice What You Preach. Then
I'm about to stick my foot in it.
Why don't you let's start something, and then I'll probably be the one to go like, okay, we're done, end of stream, bye. Right. But yeah, let's maybe play around with the cluster concept. Are we cool to play around with that as a?
Yeah, it's absolutely. Let's play around with clusters.
How does one do that?
Well, I mean, so you kind of, I always start with emotion. It's like I said earlier, that's my job, is to make sure that that's what I'm trying to sell people on. So that's the starting point for everywhere that I begin. I need to know what kind of emotion it is that I'm trying to set. So like ask the people watching
For
what emotion
an
they want us
emotion?
to throw out, an emotion, and we'll build from there.
All right.
And
Chat.
not hungry, because that's...
I think someone actually did mention they were hungry. Yeah. Okay. Let's get some emotions coming in the chat there. This is definitely the most sort of psychiatry couch moment on our stream. How are you feeling,
Nice.
chat? Tell us your emotions in the comments.
Claustrophobic.
Yeah, claustrophobic. Yeah. Okay. So. Well, now you realize that you're just going to get basically...
I get it. It's bazillion. And you're going to have to pick... You just have to pick one.
I'm going to pick one?
Yeah, 'cause I can't see what they're saying.
Oh, that's true. Okay. Horror, hope, doubt. I'm going to throw these out. Mark says, I like tutrulous. I think he means turtles. Or does he? I actually don't know what Mark's
like
emotion
turtles.
is tutrulous.
Tutrulous.
Constipated. I don't know if I want to. I don't want to work on a constipated cue with you. Enlightenment, anxiety, excited, nostalgic.
Constipated.
There's some good ones coming in though. That's constipated.
There's your constipated cue.
Perfect.
Whomever.
So yeah, let's see. Let me look over them and I'll just throw one out. Let's see. Doubt, hope, enlightenment, anxiety was a kind of interesting word.
I like anxiety. That's a good one.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of a little more depth to it, because anxiety can have different aspects too.
I like that.
Okay.
Let's go with anxiety. I will get I'll get some tremolo strings ready here.
So some people have asked about kind of your template and some of the sounds that you're using. We should probably mention. So Jesse is a Reason Rack plugin user, but he's not only that. He's a composer that has a 15-year honed, 20-year. How long have you been doing this now?
I've been doing this for 20. Well, I have been a professional composer for 21 years, and
You're old.
I'm super old. I'm 44 today.
That's what anyone wants to hear on their birthday.
Yeah. And you're the second person to tell me that. The first was, of course, our mom.
She's not doing well on this stream. She's not coming out well.
I looked this up the other day because I was curious. John Williams scored Star Wars when he was... You want to guess how old he was?
When he scored Star Wars?
Yeah.
John Williams, let's see. I'm going to try and reverse his age now. He's 32.
44.
Oh, he's 44.
44.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
You really
That's
had
a big year for me.
perfect. But well, you've actually, in a weird way, you've already scored. I mean, Star Wars games. You haven't, so you beat him. Take that, John Williams.
Yeah.
Now you just got to do the next Olympics game, the next nightly news game, the next Indiana Jones
nightly
game.
news game. Nightly News is such a great franchise. I'd love to work on that.
And he did one of the nightly news themes, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, but so people asking about Jesse's template. It's a 20-year process of building up sample libraries and stuff. You work so orchestrally that a lot of the stuff that you will probably be working with in the beginning is orchestral based sample libraries, and then
I'll show people what I do here. I have two audio tracks sitting up here just in case I need them. Sometimes if I'm doing a sample only orchestral cue, I will sometimes toss in an audio track, a track of nothing but recording studio stage noise as a means of trying to make it sound a little more authentically live. Then I have everything grouped by families, and I've tried to color coordinate them so that
for people that don't do orchestra scoring, this is a lot of a lot of who knows. Well, I mean, people know the words bassoon and clarinet, but I think there's
yeah.
there's a
So
lot
it's
of,
it's.
there's a lot. Of extra articulation
what did
there.
the other say? Right. So sustain.
Right.
Nothing all that crazy. Stack means staccato, short notes.
But so you're sort of planning for, without, I'm not going to make you go through every track,
Yeah,
but you're
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of planning for every type of way that you might play every type of instrument that's found in an orchestra. And that kind of makes up the basis for your template. But then you get into, and I guess this is probably where Reason kind of starts poking its head in as well, you get into sort of that, it's not often that a score is entirely only orchestral. It ends up being
Correct.
kind of a hybrid of other sounds.
Yep. I will frequently add other sorts of sounds in. From bowed piano to ethnic stringed instruments to world percussion, to I've been playing around lately with a lot of analog. Well, I say analog, but I'm doing it digitally.
Yeah.
But a lot of like modular synth stuff, Moog stuff, and older pre-MIDI era, pre-FM synthesis synthesizers, stuff like that. And then I also will run things through effects chains, and even if I take something like I let's see. Well, is it worth trying to show you this real fast? Where do I have it? This isn't fun for anyone. I should stop doing what I'm doing right now. Here, this is a cue that I wrote for a game called Star Wars 1313 that got canceled. And
is this an exclusive?
Might be. I don't know. Maybe.
Oh. There actually is, for people that follow the game world, this is sort of a thing, that 1313 was kind of the game that was in the works when LucasArts shut down.
Yeah. So you hear that cue, all that ticky stuff going on.
Yeah.
That is just like regular percussion that I think I ran through like a ring modulator. And then on top of it is strings. Doing tremolo and
gotcha.
Whatnot. So
gotcha.
Anyway, so I play around with processing stuff, even if it's just a very traditionally orchestral sort of sound. I will
gotcha.
Mess with things.
Now we're going to get to your anxiety cue in just 1 second, but Regmon Music says, Jesse, do you do everything in the box?
I don't. No. I actually am lucky in that I get to record a lot of stuff live. That said, I have to do demos for everything because I've never worked on a single gig where where people just said, you know what, you just write whatever you want and we'll just put it in the game without listening to it at all, and when we play the game, when it's done, we'll see how it sounds. So I have to demo everything all the time, and then the cues get approved, and once cues are approved, if it's going to be a live recorded thing, then I will go through the whole process of getting scores printed and all that sort of stuff.
Now, speaking of live players, you have maybe one of my most jealous moments.
I thought you were going to talk about how you play guitar on like everything I do.
No,
almost all the time.
No. That's but yes, that's part of our nepotism theme.
That's right.
Yes, no, I play a lot of guitar stuff on a lot of stuff Jesse does, but no,
and banjo.
Hey, don't get these guys started on the banjo. They've already been mentioning in the comments. They talk about, they see it back there and they just get excited. And by
is that
excited,
what it is?
I mean slightly mocking. But,
look, wait. Does this one have banjo? All right, never mind. I'm not going to sit here and make you guys look through my file structures again.
For cues that I play banjo on, but
for cues you play,
but no,
you
did a live session at a famous road crossing is the one I'm thinking of.
Yes,
yeah,
I did. That was actually for 1313.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, Star Wars 1313 recorded the London Symphony Orchestra at Abbey Road.
I mean,
with a double ear infection. I couldn't hear a thing, and I had to rely on everybody else in the room and just say, like, "Did that sound okay, everybody?" And they were like, "It's the LSO. They sound great."
but that's just amazing.
So,
London Symphony Orchestra in Abbey Road, like,
yeah.
that's kind of crazy. And I will kick myself all the time that I was actually over in Stockholm at that time, and I thought maybe I should go down and just pop in. And I thought, nah, he's going to be back. I'll go to the next one that he does in a month or two. You're going to be back. And then the project ended.
And then it all went away.
And now I've never gotten to go to Abbey Road. But anyway, okay, let's talk anxiety.
Cluster chord, anxiety cluster chords. Give me
Yes.
some notes.
What's that?
Give me some notes. Give me some notes.
Yeah, I'm going to give you. You want me to give you a cluster?
Yeah, we'll make it work.
Okay, you'll make. I like. See, that is Jesse's sort of. Yeah, just get started somewhere. Okay, let me see.
Yeah, it's just anywhere.
You hear that?
Yeah.
There, can you make music with that? No, okay. Let me see. So I just give you any 4 notes. Is that the idea?
Sure.
You want them to be close together? Do you want them to be spread out? Is there no?
It doesn't matter. We're gonna. I mean, within 1 octave, and we'll do all kinds of stuff with them.
How about that? Is that acceptable? Or wait, I don't think I like it. Wait. I like that better. Yeah? So I'm doing F sharp, A sharp, and D.
Wait. Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah, it's a D minor with a flat 6. Or D major with a flat 6.
Well, that sounds boring. Wait, should I give you something harder? I want to give you something harder. Okay. Is that...
No, it's fine.
Okay, then I'll do that. I'm going to do that. You going to work with that?
Yeah, or it's like an augmented chord.
Okay.
With an A thrown in for good measure. But that's a good place to start. So we're doing a tension cue. Let's...
Anxiety. Well, I guess that's tension.
Yeah. We'll start with... Let's get some timpani at the beginning here. Okay, timpani. Move this big old thing out of the way.
Oh.
Usually,
Jesse's got his piano
with this
display thing for if we're talking about. Yeah, you can just whack it off to the side or.
All right. Why doesn't he use a mod wheel? Say people. I don't have one on my keyboard. It drives me crazy.
It's tragic.
Oops. So then harp smear into this cue. The way I do harp glisses, super simple.
Hang on. We're gonna.
Anybody know what a harp is?
No, people know what a harp is, but a gliss.
Oh, sorry,
smear?
glissando. So a harp glissando. A glissando is anytime you hear an instrument go up a run up a scale, and for harps that's like 98% of their gig is just that, right? So but I will frequently just do whatever. I say smear because I literally just drag my hand across the keyboard. And then here's a whole bunch of notes. Just get rid of these little stragglers. I want it to...
That's just chromatic, effectively, or white keys or whatever?
Yeah, that's just me dragging my hand across the white keys on the keyboard. But we want to start with F sharp because that's the first note you gave me here. And then we're gonna I select similar and come for the reason, stay for the logic. There's your first 3 notes of your cluster, and then you had what else? D was the other one.
Yeah, D's in there. Yeah, it was what I say: F, F sharp, A, and D.
Okay, so here's our right. Okay,
Oh, it's
now we've that cluster.
wait. Now, can I be annoying and have you? I gotta ask a question. Does Logic have multiple undo? Can I hear what it was when it was just the white keys again? It kind of had more of a major bling.
Oh yeah, it's totally major sounding beforehand because it's just like.
Oh yeah. That's more
C
the like
major, basically.
a fairy has
you know?
arrived in the forest, and it's like, hello,
Right,
little
right.
children. Okay.
Yeah, and so now it's instead this I don't know what scale doesn't have a 2 in this scale because I replaced 2 is now anyway. It's
It's the
something
it's the
else.
cluster.
It's the cluster. It's the cluster you gave me. Right? So there's that
Interesting.
cluster.
Interesting. And so it does, yeah, kind of, you're left with, it's like lemon zest. You're left with the essence of the cluster's tonality, but kind of in a ghosted way. That's cool.
Yeah. And then if we just went, well, let's go with trem strings. Right?
Yep.
Or we could do it higher. Let's do it up there.
Koichi in the comments is saying that I got to do the rest of the live stream in my fairy voice. So, okay, Koichi, I will. No, I can't. I can't even finish that sentence in my fairy voice.
All right, that's good enough. Quantize that, and we'll just bring the volume down some. Now, well, I mean, I'm gonna just screw around over top of it. So let me actually, let's see, just drag this out a little longer so I can show you. Now, if I just start taking something, I don't know what, low strings, and just rambling around on that cluster you gave me.
These are all just the cluster notes.
That's all the cluster notes.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now we've got a melody.
Oh, you actually recorded that. Oh, you're going quick.
Yeah. It's like I said.
Oh, I thought you were
it's
just
good enough.
futzing around. So I was talking to you while you were recording.
did.
I'm sorry about that.
No. Yeah, it's fine. I will stop trying to sell people on Logic. I was going to say something.
Oh, it's so quick to record. No, this you don't have to worry about that. But I was going to say to people watching, that may not be doing the sort of game stuff or orchestral cues. There's something when I watch and what I'm hearing already, I'm particularly thinking of sort of some of those like sort of darker trap beat kind of productions where it's like there is a methodology here that is directly can play into, or trip hop even, or like this, any kind of darker mood, more modern production type of thing could use this same idea of working with the cluster. And I'm going to come up with the cluster, and then I'm going to set a pad as my tremolo, as make the proxy, sort of tremolo there. And I'm going to make my bass line using the cluster chords. And there actually is a very direct parallel to how people can sort of take this cluster mentality into other genres.
Totally. There absolutely is. And like, again, still using just those same 4 notes, I'm going to toss some brass clusters, like shock events on it. Okay. Right?
What did you call that? Shock brass?
Like a shock event. It's not really a shock event because it's, let's see, and we'll just take these.
There's some request for me or you to explain the term cue. Cue,
A cue. A cue is a track, a song,
but so in the world of game audio,
segment of music. Yeah.
in the world of game audio, though, it's a segment of music, right? So a cue could be in an interactive game engine. It could be like when the guy with the gun comes out of the building, this little snippet of music will play. That would be a cue, right? It's not a full song with structure as we might know it, or as music producers might know it. But it's
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm looking for. This is what I was looking for. All right. So here I have my cues kind of coming together here. Right, like whatever, that's just your cluster that you gave me, and now we've got this. I'll just play it without the click track, and we've got the beginnings of a tension cue here, anxiety cue, etc., for 90 minutes. You got yourself a score.
But so that is it makes sense. Then you're making your key decision based on mood. You're finding a cluster. You're then everything you've done now is working within that cluster. I suppose you can then depart from that cluster as well.
Totally.
But it certainly is kind of sets up the framework from which you're working.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes this signature little thing that you can come back to.
Right.
And you can also like pretty much all I did that whole time is keep it exactly the same as you gave it to me, just in different octaves. But if I wanted to, I could take, this. Let me turn that down a little bit. I could take this cluster that's, here in one octave, if you see it on the keyboard. And I could space that out a lot more. And now we'd end up with something like this.
Oh,
it's the same chord.
Hang on.
But
wait, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
You're define when you say space it out. It's the same cluster of spacing it out. Yeah. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Here?
I've changed the octaves that the notes are in. So you gave me something that went F sharp, A sharp, D. And if all I do is change how the order that those notes are played in, like there's a concept in jazz called drop 2 and drop 4 voicing. And it's something that here, trumpet. In jazz, like big band writing is particularly where I learned it. Let's say you have a chord in the brass in big band writing that is a 4 note C major 7 chord.
Hang on, do you have your? I'm going to pull up your keyboard. Do you have your keyboard on screen?
I do. I can make it bigger.
I wonder if maybe to demonstrate this, I wonder if we could, if we add, can we add a, that struck piano?
Yeah.
Will that factor in to sonically what you're doing here? Because it would also have a nice, very obvious attack.
It can. Where am I looking for a reason?
This is a probably my most used. Is it on Pangea or Clang? One of those. Pangea, I think. What is it? I think it's called. Isn't it called Struck? Struck Grand.
Yeah, it is.
It's in the browser. Because it won't be. It's probably not in the quick.
Yeah, it's
quick
not,
pick ones. But Pangea, I think.
Pangea. Struck grand piano. Yeah, there it is.
Okay, that is just a very obvious sound to demonstrate what we're talking about. So you can go back to your C major minor 7, whatever it was you were.
Right. So here is.
Oh, wait, can
let
actually
me
shift that out of the way just so we can see your keyboard too.
Doink.
There we go.
Very traditional C major 7 chord.
Yep.
C major 7. Okay. Now, drop 2 and drop 4 voicing means that you take the second note of that chord, the E,
Yep.
and you drop it an octave.
So this is different than an inversion as we might think of it.
Right. An inversion would just start taking notes and like hopscotching them up.
Yeah, leapfrog, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, but this is actually taking one of the middle notes, the second note of the chord, and dropping
and
that
reordering where it goes.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
And there's also drop 4, which in this case would be.
Okay.
It's a lot. You see, you can hear, especially on this struck piano, you can hear the tension there between the B and the C.
Yeah.
That is less so like that. It's more consonants on it, right?
Right.
So,
right. So drop 2 and drop 4. So okay, and so you can apply that concept.
And I apply that all the time to arranging work I'm doing that is orchestral in nature, that has nothing to do with jazz brass writing. So, here's that. So there's that C major 7 chord. If I make it a drop 2, drop 4 voiced chord, I now have this. I've dropped the E, which is the second note of the chord, and I've dropped the B, which is the fourth note of the chord.
Gotcha.
Right?
Oh, wow. Yeah. It sounds...
And already that, played melodically like that feels very different than just going,
Oh, totally.
Right?
Interesting.
Yeah. But I can do that with your cluster that you gave me too.
Right. So in that form, it's a very tight cluster.
Yeah. And I can drop the 2. And I can drop the 4.
Huh. Yeah, it's weird. It starts out sounding like a sort of traditional triad, and then it goes wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's because it's sort of, at this point, is a D chord. It's just a D major chord.
Right.
But then you have the sharp 5 on the top there.
Gotcha.
And what's interesting is that it's sort of like an overlap between a D major chord, major triad, and a D augmented triad. And that just happens to be the notes you gave me. I
see. I was being very clever.
Very clever.
I knew exactly what I was doing.
When I was doing these brass stabs here, it's possible that I could make that a drop 2, drop 4 voiced chord. Right now, this is the that's that chord you gave me, but I've changed the voicing of it, and it spaces out the sound of it. It makes it feel bigger and broader. Right. Versus before, it was this muddy lump down in the low end.
Huh. And then I imagine you can even sort of build, if you were to start muddy and build up.
Yeah, totally. I could leave it like that, and let's make it so that
You must be doing your job right, because people in the comments are suffering a little bit of an anxiety attacks right now from.
Yeah, good. So now I've made it the original cluster, and then it's a drop 2, then it's a drop 4 version of that cluster.
Right. All the same. I kind of just love the repurposing of these same notes. I think that's such an interesting concept, and one that I hope people take from this. I'm going to make your little window smaller there. I hope people sort of take from this stream today sort of that methodology of like, let me just find a few notes. I mean, I love what you said about just start and then know when to end it too. But like, that's almost like an encapsulated kind of production exercise unto itself. That's like, okay, I'm going to do the Jesse Harlin school of...
It's good enough.
Of the good enough school of music. But I'm gonna just get started, and by getting started, I'm gonna take these. I'm gonna find myself 4 notes, and then I'm gonna figure out a way to just juice the most out of those 4 notes that I can. You know, the things you did. I mean, you're working in an orchestral context. The things you did with the harp, and the things you did then moving them down as your low thing, and then you're giving them stabs, and you're changing the drop 2 and the drop 4 to change the intensity. I mean, I think that's stuff that hopefully people can sort of move into whatever style of music they do. I mean, even if you work in this highly kind of scale-based, super pretty production, you know, you can still apply that same methodology, I would imagine, right? Even if you've got a really pretty chord, that drop 2, drop 4 stuff would apply as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I know that drop 2 and drop 4 is a concept that applies to guitar chord voicings as well, and
I should know that.
All kinds of stuff.
I don't think I do know that. Do I know that? Oh, I guess yeah. I could see. I never heard that term, but I guess yeah. That concept is certainly there. Yeah. Interesting. Well, now, since I feel like we need a palate cleanser from all this anxiety, dark. No, but I wanted to, one of the things I was talking about sort of in when I mentioned this when we played your cue or your demo reel. You have this breadth of what you need to do. It's not all actually orchestral. It's not just, right. You know, it's not just sort of these type of like mood cues. And I wondered if we could just play just kind of, you know what it reminds me of. I'm gonna give you this example because you're my brother. We have a shared history that I can reference on a stream for no reason.
Of course, right.
Remember when we were kids and our parents thought it was a good idea to take us to see Platoon in the theaters when we were like
yes, I do.
6 years old?
Yes, I do.
And you remember the feeling of watching Platoon in the theater as a 6-year-old and just thinking, what horror is upon this world? And then we walked out of Platoon and our parents realized maybe that wasn't the right popcorn movie for our kids. And so we went to a double feature instantly. We went to see Mannequin.
Right.
Maybe the most like pop, like sort of just bubblegum nonsense movie of all time. So do you have anything that's the Mannequin to our Platoon of this anxiety cue?
Like you want me to write it, or you want me to just play
I just maybe something you've done just to kind of
yeah. I worked on a game a little while ago called Yoku's Island Express, and I got to just kind of write. It needed to sound sunny. It needed to sound fun. And I played. My son was really into beatboxing at that point in time, so I was playing around with beatboxing because everything I do is so that my son will think I'm cool. And what else? You'll hear it. I had a lot of fun with it, and it's definitely the Mannequin to this cue's Platoon. Oh, well, and why don't I start at the beginning?
feel the anxiety lifting off me.
Yeah.
It's good. I'm thinking happy thoughts. I'm gonna go buy some more yogurt today. I'm out of yogurt. This song made me think of that.
Can I point out a production thing I did that I like that I've never been able to point out to anyone before?
Yeah, sure.
That I did it to make it seem like it was less. So for the person who asked, do I do everything in the box? Largely that's dependent upon the budget. So this was for an indie game, and I had very little budget, and so I spent a lot of this game scoring everything in the box, which in the box means with samples in your computer,
right?
Synthetic instruments. So one of the things I did is I have this this library of female voices, and they have this funny articulation in the library that when I originally got the library, I thought, where the hell am I ever going to use that? Where they go, yep. And I put it in here because it seemed like a fun kind of song to do that in. But in order to make it seem more like live people, I actually went, I think, to like Pond 5, and I found a recording of a small group of women laughing, like a loop group of women laughing. And I put it in the mix so that it sounds as if live vocalists recorded this funny vocal cue. They do the yip. It made them laugh, and I decided to leave it in the mix in the studio. But all of it is 100% synthetic. So I backed it up.
You're engineering one of those things that's typically a kind of an accidental, oh, hey, let's keep that in.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, wow.
And it's low in the mix, but I think you'll be able to hear it.
Oh, I did hear it.
Yeah.
Oh man, back it up just a few seconds. Yeah, I did hear it. I hope other people heard it again. I just want to play it again. It's buried in there, but it's in there.
It's buried, but it's in there.
Yeah. It's panned a little bit right of center. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. I do a lot of little attention to detail stuff like that. Like I mentioned, I will sometimes put room noise over top of my sample only cues.
Yeah, I thought that was a kind of interesting one. That's, again, I always think about when I talk to any guests I talk to on these live streams, I always think about how can we all incorporate some of the knowledge that they're dropping. And that's one that I think is kind of interesting too. You know, a lot of us use sample libraries of all sorts, and it like a piano sample library, like maybe there should be a sort of room tone. That's in the post-production world, that's referred to as room tone. It's literally like if I go to record a location sound for a movie, you record the actors when they're in the scene, but then when no one's in the room, you still record just the sound of the room, the hum of the air conditioners, the rumble of traffic that's, you know, maybe a quarter mile away that still bleeds into the room. Like there's a sound every room has. And so you record that room tone and you lay it in to kind of Band-Aid over any edits and stuff like that. But that same concept can be used in music as well. If I've got a piano sample library that I'm using, if it's too pristine, maybe I just lay in some room tone underneath it. I would imagine even if you don't record your own room tone, there's probably room tone library.
That's what I'm using. Somebody somewhere made a freebie room tone library, and I just grabbed it, and it was only because it was the laziest, easiest option. If I wanted to, I could dig into some hard drives I have where we recorded room tone for like, some Star Wars session or something, and we were recording at Skywalker Sound, and we ended up just printing a couple minutes of room tone. I've got that somewhere.
Official Star Wars room tone, Jesse. You're onto something there. I'm sure people would like the official Star Wars room tone.
Yeah, but I'm very big on things not being pristine and having warts in them.
Well, isn't that funny? I mean, this is sort of, and we I say, because we're at least close in age, though you're older than me now, you ticked up 1 year.
I did.
But we came up in an era when there was this march towards pristine, where it was like, oh my God,
Right.
digital recording, there's no hiss. And oh my God, with like these samples or with, these synthesis tools, there's no noise. It's all pristine. It's perfect. It's wonderful. And then
Right. Sarah McLachlan taking every breath out of
yes,
fumbling towards ecstasy. Yeah.
Yes. I'll that literally is true. If people listen to their songs on Sarah McLachlan's album, Fumbling Towards Ecstasy, they literally chopped out every breath, because why would you want breaths in? That's the stuff it's a necessary evil. I guess our singer has to breathe, but yeah, they chopped them all out, and it actually becomes disconcerting to listen to, because you don't kind of know when to breathe yourself. It's a weird experience. And so the second era is now we're all learning how to put that stuff back in. So the
Right.
room tone one,
Which I'm actually glad you mentioned that, because that's another thing that I do when I'm writing sample-based stuff. I'm a singer by training, you know that. But for the people watching, one of the things that being a singer as a primary instrumentalist has meant is that I understand the idea of breaths and phrasing. And so when I'm programming MIDI for an instrument that is breath-oriented, brass, woodwinds, I always leave breath space between phrases, because it synthetically bothers my ear when people don't do that. So if you're writing your brass part and it's just, sorry, that's a little high and a little loud.
sounded good, but okay.
There's no breath there, right? It never stops. So I will always try and think in terms of phrases and do something more like, and you can hear those little
You just
separations.
it's a small amount of time you're talking about, though.
It's a very small amount of time, like a 16th note at most.
Oh yeah, I heard that one. Yeah. Would you, for people to understand where those might go, would it be something where if you're trying to write for a human instrument, you want it to sound human, like a brass? Would you recommend someone do what? Would sing the part and figure out where you run out of air? That's probably a good place to put a breath.
Yep, exactly.
All right.
Yeah. Or just look at it from a musical phrase standpoint. You'll know when you come to the end of a phrase. If you have something that goes, right, if that's your melody, you have two phrases there. That's not one phrase.
Right.
Did you hear that little separation?
I
in the
hear
middle?
it. I'm wondering if people, for people that don't hear it, how you do come to understand that. But
let me show you. I'll show you. I'll just visually. Does that help?
I don't know. Maybe yeah. Maybe it's is it a visual thing?
Whatever it was I was doing before. So,
yeah, you can. I guess you kind of can see it as
right there. There's that separation between the two phrases.
right.
And like this would probably should be over there. And if I weren't doing it this way, this would just drag all the way across.
Yeah. Okay.
right? But I've separated it into two phrases and left a little space there for the player to grab a piece, a small breath.
Right. Yeah.
And it just goes a long way towards authenticity and helping to make your stuff sound more like a live person.
Right.
If that's what you're going.
If that's what you're going for. Right. Right. Interesting. This is, sometimes the hard stuff to figure out is moving away from that perfection stuff. It can even apply to quantization, where it's like,
yeah, totally.
I still have to hit my hand when I'm reaching for the quantize button, where it's like, no, wait, but maybe do that, but maybe don't. Like, maybe what's cool about this part is what you're not.
I agree, but just to let you know that sometimes what I might do is with something like this, I might grab like half of the notes and quantize half of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that it is definitely in there with a rigidity.
So you're like, it's like a musician with rock solid timing that's just being distracted by something. So they're
yeah. Well, but these is brass. So this is like the first chair player is really rock solid. The second chair player is pretty good, and by the time you get to the fourth chair, he's drifting a little bit down here, right?
I got you. Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. I mean, I know I don't, and I think a lot of people watching aren't thinking about 100-person ensembles when they're writing their music. But that is a funny way to kind of simulate that the plurality that is an orchestra. So, yeah. Well, listen, we've been on for a streams amount of time, and I think it's probably we gotta let you get stuff to do. You got a job and clients that are waiting on you to make actual music. You can't go back to them and go,
that is correct.
All right, I made you a cluster. So we should let you go.
I would be lying if I didn't think, I wonder if I could recycle this.
Well, that's good. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
That was what happened on last week's show. Olivia was like, I think I'm gonna finish this song. So she wrote a song on the air, and then that's how it went. So now I have a request for you as we head out of the stream here. I also want to just throw to the.
I was gonna say, like, do you usually do like questions?
Yeah, I was gonna throw some questions out to these guys. So we will take a few questions. But I want to maybe also when we do head out of the stream, I want to have you cue up some music as outro music for us. So,
sure.
But yeah, guys, if you do have questions for Jesse, throw them out here. They can be music related questions, or they can be industry related questions. If this is something that you're looking, I know one person that I spoke to before the stream is looking at getting into game audio and stuff like that. So, if there are any questions, and I guess maybe I'll ask that one on his behalf. If this is something you're looking to explore, you're a musician, but you're looking to get into this sort of thing, is there a reasonable way? I mean, I guess you're not going to have your experience where Sony was so devoid of orchestral composer options that they went looking in schools for them. So that's not happening anymore. But what would be the way to kind of get into this kind of stuff?
The way in is by way of the indie game development scene, which didn't exist when I was starting out, but came to exist when the iPhone was invented. And now independent game development is huge, and some of the most celebrated games of the last certainly 5, but maybe even 10 years are indie developed games. They are going to range in size from one person who is struggling to try and make a game in their off time, all the way up to teams of 50 to 100 people working on an independent game. And for them, independent means simply that they aren't they're a studio that isn't owned by one of the major publishers. So there's a lot to navigate there, and way more than I can go into in a very short answer. But the independent game scene If you want to start learning about the independent game scene, is where you're going to make contacts with people who need music, and the people who can start teaching you about game music. You will want to go onto social media for this. So on Twitter, you'll want to look up the game audio hashtag, and on Facebook, even though I detest Facebook, it is a very good resource for people just starting out in the game audio industry. There's a group called Game Audio Denizens, and it's a place to just go and chat and learn all about game audio. It's a good place to, once you start getting into it, if you're having trouble implementing audio into a game, you can get good help from people there. So social media is going to be the place to go. Independent game development scene is going to be where you want to try and find work.
A question about how much knowledge does it take about video game audio engines? Is that a prerequisite to getting into it, or is that something that comes with the territory?
It comes with the territory. You do not need to know it if you are working on an indie game, a small indie game, small team, maybe only 5 people or so. Someone is going to have to learn the audio part of the implementation.
And that's things like WWise.
That's like it's Wise.
Is that just said Wise? Did you just say Wise?
They just say Wise. Yeah.
Oh.
I called it WWise forever, and then I watched one of their tutorial videos, and they were like, "So welcome to Wise," and I was like, "Oh, I'm saying it wrong." So Wise or Fmod or Unity. These are or the Unreal Engine. These are the things that are going to be the most common tech and tools on the game side that you're going to be asked to learn. There's lots of great YouTube.
But you're saying hopefully someone will learn those,
but you don't have to know those.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you don't have to know those to start.
Gotcha.
You will eventually. I'm going to be doing implementation work in Wise later this week. Once I finish a bunch of editing work that I'm doing the beginning of this week.
There's another question. It's kind of interesting. It's about the request is, are there any good practices for composing for virtual reality and 4-channel mix and ambisonic mixes? And this is actually something we haven't talked about, but you've done VR cues. Can you tell people a little bit about some of the VR stuff you've done?
Yeah, there is a company called The Void, and they build physical spaces where you go through them in VR. It's like a combination VR and like a laser tag kind of place, where there's a physical space and you're moving through it, but you're wearing VR goggles. And so if you see a wall, you can reach out and you'll touch, there's actually a physical wall there. And if you need to, if you get to a point where you have to pick up a weapon, they actually have a weapon prop and you pick it up and you carry it around and stuff. And so, actually it's funny you mentioned that, because this is a t-shirt I'm wearing for one of the things I did. It's, let's see if I can get this down here. Star Wars Secrets of the Empire was a thing I did with The Void and Lucasfilm. For VR. I did a Marvel one with them. Is
that the one that you've got something at Disneyland? Is that one?
Yeah, it's at downtown Disney and all over a bunch of other places now. But I'll tell you here's the big secret about doing VR music and audio. The music's the same as game audio. It's literally the same tools. It's the same approach. There was this funny thing where the people in the film world and the TV world were all trying to come to VR and figure out VR. And they were like, God, how are we going to do all this stuff? And meanwhile, all the game people that they were also working with, the game people were like, whatever, we've been doing this for like 15 years. It's
right.
Exactly the same stuff, exactly the same process, exactly the same tools. Don't worry, film people. We got this.
Out. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and so it's similar, and it's similar in terms of like the interactive type stuff that you do in games and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Gotcha. Well, cool. Okay.
The sound effect and dialogue mixing and all that sort of stuff. Once you start really getting into the ambisonic stuff, that gets
What is
particularly
ambisonic? I read it out and then I didn't actually know what that term meant.
It is a approach to surround sound is the easiest way I can say it. It has to do with multiple microphones and.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Okay.
It's trying to model the listener having the sound of their own head.
Oh, sort of binaural type.
That's part of it.
Okay, yeah. I gotcha. Another question: what platform is best that you have found for showcasing your music that would get attention from game developers? At parentheses, I hate Facebook, so not that.
Totally hate Facebook. If you hate Facebook, the answer is Twitter.
What about
the answer is not SoundCloud in terms of like their social media aspect of SoundCloud.
Really?
Like, yeah.
Oh, you mean within itself that you're not gonna?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. What is like, that? Isn't there? You've got a friend that has a
Realcrafter.
Yeah.
It's super rad.
What is that about? I just remember you had a friend that has something related to this, but can you tell people about it?
Sam Hulick is a composer. He was one of the composers on the game series Mass Effect. And Sam Hulick got super annoyed with the fact that there was no great solution for creating demo reels. And sending demo reels to people, because you either had to send them like a private SoundCloud link or a Dropbox them a bunch of stuff, and it was always just like, here you go, black hole. I wonder if I'll ever hear from you again. Right. And so he created this online based tool and app called Realcrafter, ReelCrafter.com. And Realcrafter is a way of building demo reels for yourself, but the thing that is astounding about Realcrafter is that it tracks when and how long people listen to your tracks. So you send someone a link and say, here's my reel, and there's a dashboard and it'll tell you, so-and-so opened up a listener in whatever city it is, opened up your reel at Thursday at 2 p.m. and they started playing this track and they listened to this much of it, and then they hit pause or skip to the end or hit stop, and they went to the next track and they listened to the whole thing, or they went to the next song and listened for 6 seconds and then jumped ahead to like 2 minutes in and listened for another 5 seconds. And so when you use that as your demo reel system, for a fact that if someone says like, oh, hey, I checked out your demo, but you can check and say like,
you can call them out.
Listen to 15 seconds. Yeah.
Right. But you also, I'm thinking of it as a really interesting feedback thing where it's like, if you're sending out your demo and you're finding that people are listening to the first 10 seconds and then they're jumping to the end, they didn't like that first 10 seconds. They're like, what else you got? And then they're done. So
exactly.
So that it's almost like, on web pages, there's these tools called heat maps where you can be like, where are people clicking? Are they scrolling down lower on the page? Do they see this button? Is this working? And it's kind of the real version, demo reel version, I should say, of that kind of heat map sort of thing, a musical heat map. That's interesting.
That's exactly right.
Now, is that, God, I almost feel like that's something I would think people would want to know for their songs and beats and stuff like that too. Can you put, does Realcrafter geared towards, or would it allow for like people that have demo reels of not just, it'll be any, so if you're a beat maker,
it's whatever you want,
and you have a demo reel and you want to send it out to people, you can find out. That's interesting.
And Sam's working on version 2.0 now, and he's adding in video support for video demos. Mm-hmm. You can make whatever you put up there available for download for people, all kinds of stuff. It's a very slick, very hip tool.
Interesting.
I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, people are saying that would be great for SoundCloud. Yeah, it would be. I mean, for any of these kind of tools. I mean, YouTube, you can get some metrics about, audience retention and things like that, but it's
Right.
not
So-
a very well implemented.
Realcrafter is great for having someone specifically that you want to send something to. Realcrafter is not like SoundCloud in that you post it somewhere and then it's like a page that people can come and leave comments and it has a social media aspect to it. That's not what it is. But it is definitely a tool for sending to people in a business type environment where you are, someone has asked you for material or that you're pitching to someone for something. That's what that's for.
Really interesting. I gotta be. Now I'm curious. I kind of almost want to just do it just to kind of see, like, wonder what. Like, if I've got a collection of tunes, like which one is the best performing in a way. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah. Well, cool. Okay. A lot of people just kind of going, yeah, they like that idea. Thanks for inspiring a bunch of future competition, Jesse. I think
you're welcome.
I think, I have noticed this with people who are most willing to share their knowledge are the people who are least in danger of losing ground. The people who are the most guarded about what they know. It's like, I can't let people know this, because if I let them know, then like I'm going to lose my spot. Those are the people that really don't have that much to guard in the beginning and at all anyway. It's like if that one trick that you're going to tell me is the entirety of your moat that protects your career, you got bigger problems going on. So that is true. The people who are good at what they do, I'm going to pay you a compliment here and include you in that. But people who are good at what they do love sharing their knowledge, because they know that there's more to what they do than just the technique. It's the everything else that you bring to the table.
Yeah, I mean, I think about this a lot. I'm 44. I've been at this 20 years. That's a long time for an industry that is maybe 50 years old at going back as far as like Pong. I think about this a lot because it's, you're lucky to keep working. Freelancing is tough. Your career could just stop at some point, and it's not great to just be a jerk to people. So just be nice to people and help people out. And, it's nice to be a teacher. It's nice to help people. It's nice to help someone along on their way. And it's a good feeling. So yeah, I don't know why people would be super guarded and weird about things.
People are weird. I've talked to a lot of artists over the years, and they're all fantastic. End of story. I have nothing more to say about that. No, some have been more willing to knowledge share than others. Some I've noticed they get a little bit like, no, that's my thing. So, okay, listen. I held you on an additional half hour after I told you I was going to let you go. So okay. We will let you go. Can you cue us up some outro music?
Yeah,
and
sure.
I do want to just say a thanks for doing this with us. Nice to talk to you. This is the only way we interact, guys. Is we haven't spoken since the last time we did
just live streams.
Yeah. But no, it's been good to have you on. Like I said, I've been, from back in the day when you were doing a lot of the LucasArts and the Star Wars stuff, knowing allegedly that Reason was featuring in there was frustrating to not be able to shout from the rooftops. It's nice to have you on here and kind of bring you into the Reason community, because you've been a member of the Reason community for years, just kind of, behind non-disclosure agreements and stuff like that. So, it's been great. So, thanks for coming on, Jess. Happy birthday! Everyone, wish my brother a happy birthday. It is his birthday. If you're tuning in late, today is his birthday. I didn't actually plan it to be you to be the guest on the birthday day, but
that's all right.
It's how it worked out. Okay, what do you got to queue up for us here, Jess?
This is a song that I wrote for an indie game called Counter Spy. And it's the main theme for Counterspy. It's called Espionnage à Trois. And it's funny because this song, I wrote it for Counterspy, and it has since been licensed by Sony to a music library. And it keeps showing up out in the world in random places. And it's mostly my wife that keeps finding it. Like, she was watching Queer Eye on Netflix. And at the beginning of an episode, all of a sudden, there was my music for Counterspy, like, just playing over top of it. Or there was a Dannon yogurt commercial where I was hanging out with my kids watching like Nick Jr. or something, and it went to commercial, and all of a sudden this song popped up out of nowhere. But so you may know it from yogurt and Netflix, but it's from Counterspy. It's a game I made with it.
Man.
It's a score I made with a company called Dynamite. And anyway, it's
Cool.
the main
Now,
thing for
how long? I need to know for my own outro. How long is this cue?
It is 1 minute and 13 seconds.
1 minute 13 seconds. We are gonna do it here, guys. Okay, hit us off, Jess.
All right, here we go. Thanks, everybody. It was nice to talk with you.
It was so great having you. Yeah, thank you, Jess.
Yeah.
All right. Oh man, that's the clock is ticking, guys.
Yeah,
listen,
it is.
Thanks for coming out. God, it's really exciting. Thanks for being on our show, guys. We're gonna be back next week. I'm almost confident enough to say who I know the guest is gonna be next week, though I'm not 100%. So I'm gonna do it anyway. I think next week.
That might be me again.
No. I think next week we are gonna have DJ Khalil on. That is right. DJ Khalil might be our guest next week. I'm pretty sure he's going to be. I'm really excited about that. So tune in, guys, for that. All right, guys.
If not, it'll be our mom.
Did I just run out? Is it cute? No, it's still going. Okay, bye, guys. We'll see you. We'll see you next week.